So I want to introduce ourselves and Elena. My name is Emma, in case anyone doesn't know. I'm the founder of Fashion in the Free, and I'm really excited to introduce my guest today, Elena Brook Hart Rodriguez. Your name is very hard to, you have so many names. It's like very hard to
Hello.
get it all in.
Don't worry,
um,
that happens to everyone.
oh, it's great. It just like, I'm terrible. I can't even talk properly. So if you have already read, we actually did a recent article with Elena that's on the Fashion the Free website. So if you haven't read that, you might want to check it out at the end. Um, but for anyone that's maybe not so familiar with her story, Elena grew up in Valencia in Spain. Um, she'd always had an appetite for adventure, but instead of going to university, she ended up saving up to go to Australia. Eventually, after that, she moved back to Spain and did a degree in advertising, which was then followed by a move to London, which is where she did her postgraduate degree. After that, she started her professional career as a strategist and still remains in London. So I'm really excited that Alina has taken the time today to share her knowledge, advice, and top tips for our discussion today, which is how to launch an ethical fashion brand with no experience. So, hi, Alina, and welcome to our webinar. And thank you so much for being here today.
Hi.
So, I would love to know, well, first of all, how's your day been? Because right now it's the evening time for you. So, how's your day gone so far? What have you been up to?
It's been a busy day today, as every day when you're running your own business. But yeah, I was hoping for the weather to be a bit nicer. And now I'm in England at the moment. I'm in London and it's raining again. So we had summer a couple of days ago and now we're back to winter. So not that nice anymore.
Pretty standard for England.
Yeah. I never get used to it though. I've been in London for how many years and I still can't believe it.
Yeah, no, I definitely, it's half the reason. I mean, I don't know if anyone knows where I'm tuning in from, but I'm from England, but I'm actually living in California right now. And I will say it's part of the reason I live here is
Yeah,
because
I
of
was
the
going to
weather.
say it's the weather.
100%. So I began telling your story a little bit, but I would love for you to pick up where I left off and just tell everyone like how you even went from working as a strategist in London to launching your own ethical fashion label.
Yeah, so at the beginning of 2020, I decided to quit my job in an agency I was working in London. It had a really, really toxic atmosphere, and I had been struggling with my mental health for a while. I felt that the work that I was doing wasn't fulfilling, and there's just so many deadlines. It's really, really hard to stay on top of your game, and it's just full on all the time. You work day and night, and at the end of the day I thought, I've got these really high levels of anxiety and I don't think this is worth it. I can't just keep going like this day in day out. And I need to reconsider what I want to do with my life. And apart from that, my 30th was coming up and I just had this massive life, I don't know, crisis, just like, oh, is this how I want to live my life? I feel like I need to do something that is more fulfilling for me and that gives me purpose and that adds value, and just live a bit of a different life to what I have now. And to do that, I thought that, you know what, I'm just gonna quit my job and take some time and see where it takes me, and just take some time to myself and have a bit of time to think. And as part of that, what I realized that my values really stood for was a lot of it was to do with helping others. And so I thought, if I do a volunteering program somewhere, I can use my skills, the skills that I already have, and help people that actually need them, instead of what I was doing in agencies that was trying to sell products to people or upsell them on their internet, or, you know, get them to purchase a higher bundle or something like that. So I thought, okay, let's go and see what's out there. And so I found this program in Peru that was looking for people to help local people in Peru to set up their own businesses. And so I thought, okay, I can do that. That's great. Why not do that? And so I quit my job and I went within like 2 weeks, something like that. It was a very rushed decision, but I felt I had to do it. And I was initially going for about a month, and I ended up staying, I think around 10 months in Peru.
As you
So
do.
as just, you know, life happens. And well, obviously COVID happened. So yeah, that was kind of how it all started. So the volunteering program was helping women in rural communities set up their own businesses. And what they were trying to do was to set up a weaving association. And that's doing traditional textiles and weaving them themselves to try to then sell them to tourists. And this for them was important for two reasons. One of the reasons was because they saw it as a source of income. So an additional source of income that, you know, they could weave the textiles and then sell them to tourists. And then on the other side of it, they would get to rescue their traditions. So a lot of the weaving traditions have been getting lost in the area and around the area and all over South America, unfortunately, because of different reasons. Some of them, obviously, Spanish coming over. Also, the introduction of new dyes. So instead of, you know, dyeing with the plants, how they used to do it, now they were just buying the dyes, which was a lot faster. They didn't have to wait for days. They could just have something dyed on the same day in the next hour. So for that reason, for those reasons is why these traditions are getting lost. And luckily, there's been a lot of work that people in Peru have started doing to try and rescue them. And they've brought on anthropologists, they've talking to the older members of the community to try and bring those traditions back and try to prevent them from getting lost. And like one of the women that I work with, she's the oldest in the group. And for her, I said, what is weaving to you? And she said, weaving is in my DNA. For me, weaving is part of my heritage, it's in my blood. My grandmother taught me this. My mother taught me this. I can't, you know, I need to pass it on. I want people to know about this because otherwise getting lost. And then I've got other women in the group who've never been taught how to weave. So they're learning now how to do it. Yeah. So it's interesting because even in the same community, there's different people, you know, with different experiences. Have I gone completely off topic here?
No, you haven't at all. No, I think it's really amazing to like kind of, you know, you're talking about how, you know, a lot of these amazing people you met, you know, some of their skills were dying. And I think part of what your brand is about is really like keeping that alive. But I have to say, one of the things that really, it almost like didn't surprise me, but part of your story that I remember you telling me was about how this kind of supposedly like organized volunteer trip just wasn't quite as organized as you'd probably hoped. Yes. And I think that combined, I mean, if you want to talk about that a little, and I also think that combined with the fact that you were there just as the like pandemic was hitting as well is pretty insane. I mean, you said to me earlier that you were the last person that stayed there because everybody else went home, right?
Yeah. So I had never done volunteering before, so I had no experience of it. I had this concept in my mind of what I thought it was. And luckily, I was obviously, as a professional, going on a career break. I was looking for something very specific. So I wanted to use my skills to help other people. I wasn't just going on holiday, you know. And so what I found when I got there is that a lot of these volunteering programs are actually for students that don't really know what to do, or they want to take a gap year before going to university. And it's kind of a holiday kind of thing, and they entertain them a little bit, and you get to do some things, but then I'm not sure to the point that's that relevant for the people that you're trying to help. So for example, the volunteering organization that I was with, up to this point, because they had just started doing the professional programs, so with people that already, are professionals and have specific skills. So before that, they were running the programs with students, and they were getting the students to teach English to the women. And this is something that I felt was not my area of expertise, and also that you need someone with a lot of experience to do this properly, because you need to remember that the level of education that these women have is quite limited. And first of all, Spanish is not their first language. So Quechua is their first language. And then they learn, or now more than before, learn Spanish at school. But Quechua is not a written language. So some of the women don't read or write. And then you're trying them to learn a new language that's completely foreign to them, and trying, for them to scribble it on a piece of paper and repeat the sounds. I feel this is very something very technical that you need someone trained to actually do it properly. So I didn't feel that we were adding that much value to them. We were teaching them, the prices in English and the names of the products so they could communicate with tourists. But when I was there, it happened to be that other volunteers were also professionals, and I came from advertising, they came from consultancies. So we're like, right, we're going to get these women, we're going to set up their businesses, we're going to get them on the right track. This is what we know how to do. So one of them started calculating prices with them. So, okay, how much is the material costing you? How long is it taking you to weave these? Why are you selling it for this price? And the response was like, oh, well, the community next door are selling it for this price. So we can't price it any higher. And he was like, well, you're losing money. And they were like, yeah, but if we sell it higher, then they'll buy it from the next community instead of us. And so another of the things that I did with another volunteer was to design leaflets for them and business cards so they could approach tourism offices and tourism agencies to try to get tourists to their community so they could, show their lifestyles to people that wanted to know more about it and sell them some of their products. Sorry, we're having a bit of a technical issue here. Yeah, so that's how I feel that I think it's a great experience to go, because obviously I wouldn't have been able to experience that culture and be in touch with those people if I hadn't done the volunteering, because it's not something that you come across that easily. But and also because they live in remote areas. But also I think that now with my company, I'm doing what I thought the vision was for that. So actually, I'm not only giving them work and paying them a fair wage, but I'm also helping the ones that want to set up their own businesses. So obviously the Weaving Association for now is not going on because there's no tourists. They have no markets to go to and sell their products to. So that's not something that can happen at the moment. Sorry. But some of them, one of them, for example, has managed to set up her own business, and she sells textiles to other people. So as I mentioned before, some people don't learn it anymore from their parents, but they still want to own it. So they buy it from other people that make it. So that's what she's doing now.
So, I mean, it's really, your whole story is kind of amazing, because what happened is that, as soon as the pandemic hit, you had pretty much everyone went home, you stayed, and I guess you felt in a way that your time wasn't you hadn't really finished what you'd set out to do out there.
Yeah,
So how
definitely.
did it even come about, when you would think, like, how did it even come about, like, oh, I know what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to start a fashion brand?
Well, I had some ideas in my head beforehand about starting a fashion brand. And initially, I wanted to do it in London and giving work to homeless people because I had been volunteering with a homeless shelter
Mm,
before. And that was something that was in my mind. And I had even started creating a business plan. And because of the quarantine, I had a lot of time in my hands. So I was like, yeah, I'll create the business plan, I can research the audience and do all these things that I actually know how to do because I have been trained in this.
yeah.
And then I thought, hang on, why not do it with these women? Because they make these textiles so we can actually incorporate it into modern clothing, and then I would be helping them, and at the same time, I can help them reach a wider audience because I would be selling it here. Well, we are selling worldwide, but my initial idea was, the UK and Europe.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's how it kind of came about, and I then got in touch with them because I was also thinking, what is the point if I come here to volunteer and then when things really get tough and they really need help? Because we had been in quarantine for about 3 months at that point,
Mm,
I think. And they grow their own food and they have animals. So if they weren't suffering from hunger, they're self-sufficient, but what they need is extra income when they want to, have other things or send their kids to higher education or, modern life. Now you need money. You can't just, they are quite rural as well. So some of them need to buy cars to move around.
yeah.
So yeah, there's a whole other perspective that comes into place.
So how did it work when you were thinking about, teaming up with some of the artisans and the locals you'd met? Like, I know you have some really incredible stories, just like how that even came about with so many of them. So if maybe you could tell everyone like some of those
Yeah.
stories.
So just to give a bit of background, the brand, I actually work with three different groups. So the first group is the women in rural communities, and for obvious reasons, I already knew them. Um, I had been working with them. I knew what they wanted, and I knew that they needed help. So I called them up, and they were like, "Yeah." I said, "Do you want to work? I think we could make some textiles together. I could buy some of your products." And they were so excited. They were like, "Yes, please, like let's do it because this quarantine is just going on and on and on forever." Um, and yeah, let's just do it. So I went there. I had some ideas of what I wanted, but they showed me all of the designs. They showed me the textiles that they make. And then afterwards, I said, okay, I need to put the collection together in a presentation, and then I will know what we need to do.
Yeah.
So I will just show you some of the clothes just so you know what I'm talking about more specifically, because this might all sound like, what is she on about? So for example, what I'm wearing now is a dress. And if you can see, these are the traditional textiles.
Mhm.
This is all hand woven by the women. And then we incorporated into it in a small family owned factory in Peru. But what is really interesting about it as well is the meaning of the motifs. So, for example, these ones are hearts, right? And these are typically woven into the clothes of the bride and groom for their wedding day. Because it represents love. And this one is a very complicated one to make. Not everyone knows how to make it, and it takes a lot of time. But for example, I've got other ones here.
Oh, cute.
So this is a dress, and on the sleeves it has this designs, and so the zigzag, it represents the mountains, and the paths that are around the community. And then the little circles are the eyes of the animals they grow. So it's the llamas, it's the bulls. So all of it has a story. And that's also why the brand is called Handmade Stories.
Yeah.
Because everything represents, and the beauty is that it represents the lives of the people who make it. So this is one of the jumpsuits.
Oh, that's cute.
Comes, with the story of who made it and how you're helping them. But for example, this one, this is the tool that they use to work the land.
Nice.
So, I mean, for me, it's incredible. I find it fascinating. But I think it's also nice that you can wear clothes that actually tell you a story about the people that are making it and brings you into their reality, you know. And I think that's amazing. So this is the first group that I work with the women. And then I also work with jewelry makers, a family of jewelry makers. So they have a little workshop in their house, and they used to sell the jewelry in markets. And with the pandemic, they couldn't sell it anymore. And actually, the market they were selling at just completely closed, and all the jewelry was left inside, and they couldn't get it.
Oh
And for months and months, they couldn't even get it. So they couldn't even try to sell it locally.
Yeah.
And so with them, they looked for jobs elsewhere. So it's a son and a father. And the son was just selling breads in the streets of Cusco. So all day from, I think they started at 6 a.m. and they finished at 7 p.m. every day, just trying to sell bread. And also they would get paid on commission, so depending on how much they were selling. And you can imagine that bread is not a very expensive item, so they weren't making a lot of money from it. And the dad was trying to sell some things just at home to neighbors or to people that were passing by. So when I met the son, he was so happy. He was so happy that he could, you know, go back to his workshop and make jewelry again. And for him, the thing was like, I don't want to be out in the sun for so many hours a day and not see my family at all. And they had a really small baby, super cute, and he has two other kids as well. And he just wanted to be with them, and he wanted to be at his workshop. He could, you know, look after the kids. He could help his wife, be with his family, and do what he likes to do, which is creating this amazing jewelry. And I'm so happy. I'm sorry, I'll just show you quickly some of the pieces.
I really love the jewelry you do. It's so pretty.
Yeah. And so that was the second, that's the second group that I work with. And then the third one is Men in Prison, which is quite unusual. So yeah, I knew the wife of one of the men, and he told me that his husband was in prison, and that they had this program in Peru actually that is called Productive Prisons. And in that program, they teach them trades. So they teach them things like shoemaking, they teach them woodwork. So some of them make doors even, they make furniture. And some of what they teach them is to make the traditional Andean textiles. And so she said, you know, you love the textiles. If you're into it, you can give them work. And there's 40 men at least that will be willing to do it, and they know how to do it. And the way they do it is using looms. So I will show you an example for those. Sorry, I feel like this is a bit of a class now.
Okay.
For those that are not familiar with it, this is what they use to weave it. And so that's how they make these textiles. And what I've done with them is a collection where of homewares, basically. So it's cushion covers. These looms will be also for sale as wall decorations, so you can hang them on the wall. This is an example of a cushion.
Oh, that's nice.
For all the animals from the area.
That's so cool.
It's really, really skilled work. It's just amazing. And the way I work with them was through their families, essentially through the wives, which were absolutely amazing. Um, and so I would say, okay, we looked at designs and said, okay, can we do some cushion covers, for example? How much will it cost? And so they would talk to their husbands by phone, because we weren't allowed to visit at all, and they still are not, over a year later, and they're still not able to visit,
Oh my God.
because at some point they had 400 cases of COVID inside the prison,
Oh,
and it's just a disaster because it just spread so quickly.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it was quite dangerous. So no one was allowed to visit. I've been told that now they're allowed to do video calls with the families, which is really nice, because then they could see the kids that they hadn't seen for a year.
oh my goodness.
So yeah, well, it's been amazing, and the way we work is, they call the husbands and they say, okay, how much will you charge for these cushion covers?
Yeah,
And then they come back and say the price, and I don't haggle with them because I don't think it's fair. And if they think that's the right price, then that's the right price, and that's
yeah,
how we're gonna do it. And that's part of the ethical, way of working, that I want to do as much as I can for them. And so we would buy the materials, leave it with the prison guards. The prison guards would take them in,
wow.
uh, take them a piece of paper with the designs printed on them. And
Yeah,
some scribbles,
setup.
some scribbles saying this goes here, this is this color, this. And yeah, the result is the collection that we is launching in 2 weeks. um, and yeah, I actually didn't see it until it left the prison, obviously. So that was really interesting, because I sent some designs in and what came out was completely unexpected. So it's great. I mean, but it's amazing. It looks amazing, and I'm so glad.
That's so exciting. So
Yeah.
I guess like one of the things, like the main thing I wanted to, well, one of the huge things I want to ask you about, starting this brand is that obviously there's probably quite a lot of people that are tuning in right now that really want to know, if you have like absolutely zero experience in fashion, like obviously you need some confidence to, even start that knowing you don't have the experience, but also like, where do you even start? I mean, obviously you started in a sense with your ideas, and you had this like business plan going, and you were talking to the locals and figuring that out as you were going. But did you sketch everything yourself? Did you do your own tech packs? Like, how does that all work with someone that, because obviously I'm coming from a place that I've been doing fashion most of my life. I've been in the industry for over 10 years. So to me, I'm like, oh God, I don't know what I would do without my knowledge. But you obviously were able to do it. So I think that's probably a lot of questions on people's minds right now. If you can explain.
So I had my little business plan. So I kind of knew the audience that I wanted to go for. I knew the kind of collection that I wanted to do. Um, and also, one of the things that you learn when you work in advertising, or when you work in strategy, is always put yourself in the shoes of the consumer. So I was thinking, okay, I'm going to be selling this online. I want to create pieces that you can wear to the office, that are comfortable. And then if, you go for drinks after work, which is quite common here in London,
Oh
then
yeah.
that can turn into a night out quite easily. You don't need to change outfits. You just look amazing anyways, because you're wearing this, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to create something that was quite like this. And then I wanted to create something that would fit different body shapes as well. Something that you didn't necessarily have to try on, just to try to avoid returns. So I was being quite strategic with the things that I wanted and that I was looking for, just because of that. And then the way I went about it is I went to Pinterest. Who doesn't go to Pinterest for fashion inspiration? I went to Pinterest. I started saving, the images that I liked, the styles that I liked. And then I turned to PowerPoint and I said, okay, this is what I want to do. I want kind of this shape for example, a dress, but then I want this color kind of for the neck. I want this kind of sleeves. So doing a bit of a collage and putting it all together, and then also thinking where the motives were going, and so which motives were going when. So I started doing this um, whilst I was working with the women, and we were figuring out which motives we could do, how long it took, the price, and all of that. So it was all happening kind of at the same time. And also, I started planning a winter collection because I was very ambitious and I thought I could get it all ready for last winter. And then with COVID, I realized it wasn't going to happen. So I had to readapt everything and come up with a spring summer collection. So that was also quite challenging. But the way, as you were talking about tech packs, things like that, obviously I don't have the skills to do that. So I had the image in my head. I had not even sketches because I'm not very good at drawing, but I had my collages on a presentation. And then I just started looking for factories. And I started emailing and going on different websites. I contacted the Chamber of Commerce of Peru, and then they have an alliance with the UK. So I contacted them as well. None of them really were very keen on the topic of fashion. I think they're more used to things like food. So yeah, fashion wasn't a strong topic, so they didn't help me much. But just Googling and emailing factories and trying to find one that would actually help me to design my vision.
Yeah.
Because I knew I couldn't create the tech packs myself, so I needed a factory that could help me with that as well. And I was very, very lucky that I found a couple that could do it. One in particular that also knew about exporting,
Yeah.
which was also a big hassle for me because I didn't know anything about it. I was just Googling day and night about it because I was very scared that things would get stuck in customs
Yeah.
if I didn't follow, the regulations. So I was looking all of this up and then trying to find a factory, and they normally export more to the States or Mexico.
Right.
Um, so they're not so familiar with exporting to Europe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I found this, and then I also had to bring my company values into it, and I wanted to work with a small factory that treated its employees fairly, and not just one that would mass produce and just to meet deadlines would make everyone work overnight.
Yeah.
So that was also important to me. And one of the challenges also was the minimum or the quantities
Yeah.
that you need. So a lot of the factories that know how to export and they have the certifications and have everything in place, their minimum or the quantities are about 4,000 units per color, not even per design,
Wow.
per color. I was nowhere near that. No way.
That's a huge minimum. Like I've definitely dealt with a lot of factories recently for smaller brands, and they're kind of more in the 100 minimum
Wow.
range.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. I think when it comes to export, because it's that extra work and extra paperwork, and you need to get certificates for everything. So, for example, for the buttons, you need the certificates. Um, I think maybe because of that,
Yeah.
or also they have a view that maybe if you are foreign, you will have more money to spend. So they try to get you to spend a bit more and go for higher quantities. Um, or maybe also because I didn't have a tech pack and I needed that extra help, and they're like, yeah, no.
Yeah. No, I get that.
There's a lot of factors that come into play. um, but yeah, I was lucky enough to come across this group, and they work with small family-owned factories.
Yeah.
And the first meeting I had with them, I asked them to go to the factories. Actually, I think they were a bit surprised, like, "Oh, you don't want to meet at the office?" I was like, "No, I let's cut to the chase and just go to the factory first, and then we
Yeah.
can talk from there because I wanted to make sure that, this is good for everyone involved and I'm not making any harm to anyone.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, that's the advantage, I think, with you already being there, was that you were able to do that. Because I know that for a lot of businesses, especially during this time with COVID, that, they haven't been able to go firsthand
yeah.
to the factories, and they're relying really on the certifications they have, and potentially just trying to get videos. And, I think you can obviously pay to get someone to go and do factory inspections as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot harder at the moment to, be there in person and really see it. So you were, in a way, you were lucky that you were already out there.
Yeah, and well, for me, it was very important to be there also because of my lack of knowledge and lack of tech packs. And I will keep saying this, lack of tech packs. But the way we work together is that I show them my designs and then they help me. So some of the designs, they said, okay, you need this kind of fabric because otherwise your motifs are not going to attach properly to it, or it's
Right.
not going to be right. Or you need one that has a special, I don't know how you say in English, but when you wear it, it has a special drop, so the fabric has a special weight. So
Yeah.
it looks
Like a
way.
special drape.
So, yes, you know a lot more about this than me. But so they helped me with all of that, which I'm so grateful for. Um, and then they taught me about, different kind of sleeves, different kind of buttons, even the zips, which is great. And for me, just planning ahead a little bit, I tried to do the winter collection at the same time, just so I could see the samples. And I tried to stay almost through the whole sampling process, which I couldn't do in the end, but almost got through it. And because we did a few rounds, obviously, and then decided to change some things. And then maybe they did something, for example, the neck that they did for this dress, I didn't like. And the next day I went with a picture of, maybe we can do this one. And they're like, okay, yeah, this works. Or for another, they said, okay, that won't work because of this, but maybe you can do this other thing. So communication is so important, so important.
Yeah.
And I was really lucky that I was there, and I even stayed for longer just to be there, because I think it's essential.
Yeah. So if you don't mind me asking, like, how were you able to fund everything? Was this all your own funding, or did you have an investor or anything?
No investors, so it's all on me.
Which is
So
what I think most people do, especially now. I think a lot of people are self-funding their projects.
yeah, so one of the things that I will say to anyone thinking about doing this is, and this is one thing that my accountant said to me on the first meeting, and is it will always take longer than you expected, and it will cost more than you expect. And there are so many other costs that you don't take into consideration that do come up later on. Um, and yeah, it does cost more than what you were thinking to spend. So if anyone's thinking about this, I would just say have some money apart for the things that come up. So for example, when you're importing, you can incur on some custom costs that you weren't taking into consideration. Or for example, I've been invoiced twice the wrong amount, and I need to claim it back. But you need to pay it in order for them to deliver the goods, and then you can claim it back. So it's good to have a bit of extra money on the side just for this kind of things.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's
also,
always good to have that kind of extra sort of side money, in those eventualities. Because the thing is, with starting a brand, it doesn't always go exactly to plan, and you do have to prepare for that.
definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Um, Let me see if I had any more questions for you. By the way, if anyone does have any questions for Alina, we're going to do some questions at the end of this. So please, like, don't hesitate to just type anything. If you feel like we haven't covered anything, if there's anything you're dying to ask, just type it in the group chat, and either myself, to whoever it's directed to, either myself or Alina can answer. Um, so let me see what other things I had to ask you, because I had a long list of questions. So, what would you say are the challenges and rewards of launching an ethical label like this? Well, even just a label in general, but obviously ethical as well. If that's, include that as well.
Yeah, so for an ethical label, I think the rewards are immense and you can just feel it and touch them from day one. So for me, I'm in touch with the people that make the clothes and I'm constantly in touch with them. So the women, for example, they call me even now in the distance. They know I'm here, whatever they need. So we still keep that communication. And I can see how the project impacts their lives, which is the beauty of it, because I can see the real life impact that I'm having in their lives. So that is amazing. And it's not the same sending off, your production off to a factory where you don't really know anyone, just having it done and receiving it, than actually knowing the people that are making it and knowing the impact that you're having in their lives. I think that's something that's priceless, and it's the big bonus of this. On the flip side, I know that I can't scale the business as other businesses do. Because I can't say to the women, for example, okay, I need you to weave faster and for longer, because I work with them around their schedule. So they look after their animals, they look after the families, they look after the land, and they do this afterwards. So I can't say, no, you need to work 9 to 5 for me and just weave until this is done. I need to work around their lifestyle. So for me, it's not a case of asking them to do more, but in the future of finding other groups to work with. So I know I will never get to have a collection that has a million, units of something or thousands and thousands. It's all going to be small, but because it's small produced, and I, yeah, I care about the people.
Yeah.
So that's a big challenge in terms of scaling that I will need to, look into later on at a later date if everything goes well. But I think the gratification that you get from it is so much more than the money that you can make with a bigger collection, I think.
Yeah.
In my case, I think it all depends on the values you have, and it all depends on the way you want to live your life. But I'm sure that there's always a way to do things in a more ethical and a more friendly way for everyone.
Yeah.
um,
Totally.
and I think that at the end of the day, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have any products. So they are the most essential part of my business. So I think it's only fair that they get the best treatment from me.
So, what I guess as I mean, these kind of questions will kind of go together in a way, but as someone that hadn't had any fashion background, what I guess what are the biggest difficulties you found that you feel like, oh, maybe if I'd have had that background, it might have been an easier process. Was there anything that, kind of stood out to you as being pretty difficult with that?
I think probably finding factories, because it was a new world for me.
Yeah.
I mailed over 50 factories and I only heard back from about five. And I met with four of them in person. I had some phone calls with others. But the main thing was, how do I go about this? And I will say to anyone trying to start anything, Google is your friend. It has answers, has a lot of answers. Just keep going at it. And don't get discouraged if you don't hear back, because I didn't hear back from most of them. But I think it's fine. Things happen as they were supposed to. Um, so that was one of the big ones. And the next one was thinking about what I wanted in the clothes. So also the kind of fabric that I needed, how to do the samples. So luckily, I was there and I could review the samples. I could try them on. We could make changes, kind of live.
Yeah.
But it's quite a daunting process. And if you don't know what you're doing, you're guessing a lot of the time. So think as a consumer, I think is one of the biggest ones. Think as a consumer, um, and trust your gut and keep going, because a lot of challenges will come along the way, a lot of them.
Yeah.
But keep going. And one of the things is also that I know when you're starting your own fashion brand, you're like all about production and that's what you're focusing on. But running a business is so much more than just the production. And now I'm realizing the production is a small part of it. Although when you're in the middle of it, it feels like everything is your whole world. But once you finish that part and you move into the next one, so planning for the launch and then doing the launch, and then now after the launch, I feel like I've gone into a whole new phase. Um, that's completely different to the production phase. There's so many other things that you need to think about. Um, so I think my skills in this instance were really useful, because coming from an advertising background and a business background, I knew a lot of things from the business side, and I found the people that would help me from the fashion side. So one of the things that I would say is, if you don't know how to do something, try to find someone that does, and think if you can, outsource that, because in the long term, in the long run, it might be better.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So what like major key lessons do you think you learned after all of this so
So
far?
I've got a few. I've got a bit of a list of advice for people if
Yeah.
they're thinking. Just a bit conscious of time, but
Yeah, of
um,
course.
the first one would be, have a clear idea of what you want to do. Have a very clear idea of what your brand, you want your brand to stand for. So, for example, in my case, I wanted it all to be surrounding the ethical side of things. And then when I got into the madness of production, I was like, oh my God, why am I not just importing stuff from China, making t-shirts, which is so easy to do. But you need to make sure that you're staying true to your values and what you want your brand to stand for. And this will help you massively when making decisions in the future. So even for me, looking at factories, trying to decide who to go with, I was always, even looking for a photographer, I always tell them about the business. I want everyone that works in the business, that does even the smallest job for the business, to align with the values of the business.
Mhm.
And this will help you massively, because a lot of opportunities will arise along the way. You'll get carried away. You'll be like, I'm going to do this other product. I'm going to launch this other thing. This will help you keep focused, and follow your path, and what hopefully is the right path for you. The next one is, try to create a community around you even before you launch your brand. So if you already work in fashion, for example, you can share your sketches, start creating a bit of a community in social media, even if it's, on a Facebook group, or you've got an Instagram account, or now TikTok, that's really big right now. So share your sketches, share your processes. And if you can find your niche and stick to it, I think that's the most important thing. So I know some people that make clothes from leftover fabrics, for example. So focus on that. Tell people that that's your passion. Show them, little designs that you're doing. Show them how you're stitching them together. If you know how to do that, I've got no clue how to do that. But if you know how to do that, do it. If you don't have any idea how to do any of that, but you are passionate about, eco-friendly products, for example, talk about that, look for sources, educate people about that. Just say, the little changes in your life that you're making. I follow a woman, for example, on Instagram, and she just said, I quit Amazon. This is how I'm doing it. That's amazing. People care about these things. So try to build a community that aligns with those values.
Yeah.
That will help you when launching your brand, for sure. Money, we've already touched on. You'll always need more, so try not to spend all of it in your production. Save a bit for later. Save for a rainy day. Things will come up that you didn't expect. Save for that, and then save a bit for marketing as well, because you will need to invest in things. And it's good to have that cushion and not to, have your whole production done and suddenly be like, oh, I can't keep going because I don't have enough money to actually launch this into the world. The next one, also related to money. There are free things online. So if you are in the UK, for example, I found this out when I was doing my research. I needed to find out how to do the imports into the UK. So I started looking for accountants. And I found out that accountants actually give you a free session. Most of them give you a free session, so you can decide if you want to work with them. They give you advice, and they give you a lot of advice and a lot of good advice. So I was there, and the sessions might be half an hour, might be even an hour long. I sat there with my notebook, taking notes. Everything they were saying was so useful, and they are the experts. So, this is really, really important information that they have, that you can just learn from them for free. And then if you decide that it's the right thing to do for you to hire one of them, then go ahead. I did, because I thought it's a really important side of the business that is also not my area of expertise.
Mhm.
And you pay them once a year, and that's it. They do your accounts, and you're safe, and you're not going to go into massive fines.
Yeah.
So I think that is very useful, and you can get all of that knowledge for free. Next one is follow your gut. So you have the idea, you've done your research, you've done all the work. People will tell you a lot of things, but only you know what's right for you and your business. And this is very important, because people will start saying, do this, do that, and you can start doubting yourself. And obviously, you're going to doubt yourself. It's only natural. We're only human, but follow your gut and go back to your values, consult with them, and come back and say, okay, I'm not listening to you. I'm following my path. You're the expert in your business. You know what's right. What else do we have? I think we touched on this earlier, the start with low quantities and test it. This is quite important before you put all of your money. And I've heard stories of people that have bought like 4,000 units of something, and 4 years down the line, they still have them sitting in their storage room, if they're lucky enough to have a storage room, because they couldn't sell it. And as a new starter, you can get carried away, because the price is lower if you buy in high quantities. Just don't do it. First test, see if it's selling. If it's selling, make more. You can always make more. Just
Yeah.
think like that. I think I've touched on the outsource important things that you feel that you don't have the knowledge to do. If you have the money, or even think of what is important and save that money for that. Like accountants, for me, I talked to them, they told me, okay, this is the rate. And I said, okay, I know I'm going to keep this money for in a year when I need to do my annual accounts. I've got that money to pay this person, because they can save you a lot of money as well.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing, and they can save you a lot of money. So it's a good thing to invest. And lastly, and I will shut up now, I promise.
No, this is super interesting. I'm on the edge of my seat listening to.
Last thing is, don't feel like you have to know everything, and everything needs to be perfect before you launch. And this is something that has kept me up at night. And I was thinking, I can't launch if I don't do this, or I don't know about this, or this fabric, is it good enough? And you have so many questions, and don't feel like you need to have all the answers, and don't feel that everything needs to be perfect. Like getting certifications, I wish I had all the certifications in the world. I wish I could have them, but they are expensive. And your focus is to try to get something to market, get your product out there, see if it's selling, and then you can do all of the other things. So I wanted to trademark my brand first thing off. The accountants say, wait a little, don't just do it straight away. Things like that. Like, don't feel that you need to have everything. Insurance, please have it in place. But other than that, don't feel like you need to know everything or have everything in place before you go ahead and launch, because you will figure out things as you go. And feeling that you don't know everything, and that you don't have everything in place will just delay you. And there's people that don't even ever get to launch, because they're just waiting for the perfect time to have the perfect product, to have, everything needs to be perfect. And that's also a way of self-sabotage. And you'll end up spending years with this idea. And people have done it, spent years and never launched.
Well,
And
and then the longer
so
you wait, maybe the less relevant your idea back then was in the first place, less relevant the product could be. So you kind of just have to go for it, don't you?
exactly, just go for it. And sometimes I also think, when you ask me, oh, how did you do it with no experience, I'm like, oh, you know what, in a way, ignorance is a bliss. If I knew how hard it was going to be, I don't know if would have done it. I'm glad I've done it now. Like when you're on the other side, you're like, yeah, I'm good, it's good. But when you're in the middle of it, there's so many unknowns, and sometimes it's better, not to know about all the possible things that might go wrong. And I feel that because I didn't have all that knowledge, I was like, I'm just gonna do it, just find a way to do it. Whereas if I knew all of these things, I would have been a lot more worried about a lot of these things.
Yeah.
So it's, again, follow your gut feeling. It doesn't need to be perfect the first time. You're learning, you're developing, you're trying to create something great. Just go for it.
Yeah. I think that's all like amazing advice, to be honest. Because I mean, the thing is, as well, both me and you like come from completely different backgrounds in that sense, and that, you've kind of gone through this, like you said, ignorance is bliss route, whereas I kind of come from the opposite end, and I've seen firsthand everything that can go wrong. So I'm always, whenever I work with clients, I'm always trying to, prepare them for these different things and try and iron out everything before things can even go wrong. So I think in some ways I like the way that you come at it, because you've just kind of been able to move along and adapt as things change, and which is always good.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely.
So I see that no one's asked us any questions, so I'm gonna wrap up. If anyone like, feels like they had a question afterwards, I've put my email address in there. So I can forward, if you've got any questions for Elena, I can forward them on. I've put her website link, my website link, our Instagram links, everything's on there in the chat. If you do want to use any of those, you do want to reach out to either of us. But yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for everyone that's joined. A real special thank you to Elena for taking the time to do this with us. I hope it's been really useful. Oh, Elena, Elena, are you okay giving out your
Yeah,
email
that's
on there?
fine. Or if you want to message me on Instagram, that's fine. Otherwise, I'll just put my email here so you can
Perfect.
write me an email if that's
Okay.
easier.
Amazing. So yeah, if you are thinking of launching your collection, if you do want any assistance at all, as I mentioned, I've been in the industry for a long time. I actually do this for a living now as a freelancer. I work with a ton of brands like Alina. I work with a lot of small brands, I really help them start everything from scratch. Whether they need help with designs, if they need help with sourcing factories, if they need some tech packs doing, prints, graphics, the whole thing. So if anyone is interested in that, as I said, my email's on there. If you did want to reach out, any questions you have, or you want to have a little consultation, feel free to reach out and we'll see what we can do. Don't forget to check out, obviously, all the links that we've just sent you. And if you enjoyed our chat today, we would really appreciate it if you can share feedback with us. We're going to share the video link on the Fashion and the Free website, on socials, and the Fashion and the Free YouTube channel. So that will be within the next week or so. But yeah, I really appreciate everyone joining, and thank you all again. And thank you, Alina.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you everyone for joining. It's
Cool.
been great. Sorry, I chat away.
No, I think everyone's found it really useful. So I think chat all you like.
Yeah, but if anyone has any questions or you want to get in touch, go to Instagram, send me an email, whatever you need. I'm always happy to help and answer questions. And if you're thinking of starting your own brand, I would definitely advise to go with someone like Emma that can help you bring your designs to life and your ideas to life, because that's something that I didn't have and I would have found so useful. I actually didn't know that role existed, and yeah, if I had to do it again, I would definitely go down that route.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening, enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and speak to you all soon. All right, bye.
Bye.